Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Gen Gamers, the first episode of 2024. I'm Jed, co-host Mike. Welcome to 2024, sir.
2024. Yeah, we definitely probably should have recorded this episode earlier, but as we were talking offline, this holiday season, I don't know about y'all, but in my neck of the woods, this holiday season was the season of illness.
Yeah. You know the scene in Godfather when Sonny pulls up to the toll booth and he gets surrounded and there's just like 15 people shooting him with Tommy guns? Yeah, that's same thing in
That,
my
but
house.
viruses.
Yeah, but the bullets were viruses. It was just one after another.
100%. 100%. Yeah, welcome back to First Gen Gamers. We are doing, as we alluded to in the previous episode, a holiday themed episode. We're going to run through the generations as best we can to give you the games that may or may not bring you holiday cheer and maybe inspire you to think of holiday games of your own that maybe beforehand you hadn't actually thought of as holiday games. Exciting.
Yeah, and so to preface it, holidays is definitely a generic term.
Oh, it's catch-all for sure.
Yeah, so when we say holidays, not only are we talking Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or whatever
Yom Kippur,
or December holiday that everyone knows. It's also Thanksgiving. It's also New Year's.
Halloween.
It's Halloween. And it's also that general autumnal, wintry feeling.
Yeah, straight up, for sure.
So
straight up.
So quite a few of our games, I imagine. I know at least for a few of mine. I've been talking offline beforehand. Same with Mike. There's definitely going to be some that are a little more. We're going to have to explain the connection to the theme, probably. Which I think it'll be a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah, this will be the Die Hard episode for sure.
Yeah.
We are going to explain why Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but in video games.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, I think Die Hard was a video game. It counts.
Yeah, absolutely counts. Several games, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, well, let's get into it. Second gen Atari Television Odyssey ColecoVision. What you got for second gen? Because I unfortunately I have nothing.
So one game came to mind, and it is for the beleaguered, but in my heart beloved Atari 5200.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a game that evokes wintry feeling. So,
okay.
And that game is called Pengo. Now, Pengo is a single screen action puzzle game. You play as this little blue penguin. His name is Pengo. Shock. And you're playing the game field is an ice flow, and it's a top-down shot. And the idea is that there are little ice blocks all over the place. There's like maybe say 10 ice blocks in the first level. And there are monsters that are running around that are trying to kill you.
Mm.
You have to kill them with the ice blocks by kicking them. The trick is the ice blocks don't regenerate.
Mm.
So you either have to squish them between the two ice blocks or use the ice blocks to kick them off the ice flow.
Okay.
So the holiday connection, which we're starting off, it's pretty tenuous, wintry. This whole game is winter. There is not a single tree in sight. There's nothing, but I mean, you're playing on a penguin on an ice floe. How much more wintry could you possibly get?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that invokes the feelings, and we're definitely going to come back to that well a few times in this episode, so that works.
Yeah.
While you were talking, when we were thinking about Atari, I did think of one thing. Was it called Boo Haunted House, literally, or was it called Haunted House? Do you remember that game?
Haunted House, yeah.
Haunted House. That's holiday themed, I think. That's a good one to play during the Halloween season.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a diehard Atari fan, you got a couple options,
and
for sure.
And just to note too, to spin off of Haunted House, if you have any of the modern systems, the Atari 50 collection, which is, I mean, you should own that if you're an old school gamer anyway, because the Atari 50 collection is fucking fantastic.
No, I remember you saying just how extensive a museum like this collection is. It sounds like a game collector's collection, which
absolutely.
is cool.
And one of the neat things in there is that there are 6 or 8 recreations, air quotes, or new versions of games where they actually, where the dev that put together the whole collection actually created new spins on old games. And one of them is an updated version of Haunted House.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. I vaguely, and I could be wrong, could be talking out of my ass completely, but I vaguely remember there being a Haunted House re-release or reboot on Xbox Live Arcade. Do you recall something like that?
I do not, but I mean,
something we maybe need to look up later. But yeah. I recall somewhere around the 7th gen, there was a Haunted House reboot or remake of some sort. Not super complicated, but, like a nod. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Same thing with the one in the Atari 50 collection. All the games are, I mean, they're done in the spirit of the old games. They're done with the graphical style, but they are definitely running smoother. The sprite flicker's not there. It's more, they're loving homages without just being reproductions or sequels.
They take the rose-tinted glasses and put it over the actual game.
Exactly.
I love that. All right. Well, then let's skate on over to 3rd gen. So, your Nintendos, your Master Systems and whatnot. I had a couple of examples in mind that I thought about for that particular era. And there's honestly tons. But one of the things I thought of was Ice Climbers. I mean, again, your wintry theme, all of your little Nana and Popo and their little parkers or parkas, whatever they're called, and climbing the mountain and, all of the winter themed animals and enemies. I just think that kind of invokes that kind of feeling, especially for those who are nostalgic for gaming in that particular age. And then this is one that I when I was doing some research and like looking up, what are some holiday themed games? I remembered just from seeing it, and I was like, oh yeah, because I think AVGN had an episode on this game, Home Alone.
Yes.
Home Alone was on everything. So I looked it up. Home Alone was on the NES, the SNES, the Sega Genesis, the Master System, the Game Gear, the Game Boy, Amiga, MS-DOS. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they definitely milked that franchise to death. Now, in every one of the games, there's some sort of variation of Kevin either protecting his own home from the wet bandits or other homes on the block from bandits. And, the game parameters and the lose and win state are different slightly from game to game. But essentially, it kind of brings you back into that holiday mindset where you're a kid trying to defend your house from holiday bandits, using micro machines and shit. So, again, I think a cool game to get into for that particular generation if you're fond of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually going through this morning. I wanted to replay one game that I had in mind for this generation, which was Snow Bros. Which, the more that I played it, the more I went, okay, yeah. The lead characters are cursed to be snowmen, but that's about as tenuous as it gets to it.
Fair enough.
So my pick... But, I'm sorry. I was going to say I did see Home Alone in there, and I was like, okay, there's 2 Home Alone games. And then I went over to the Master System, like, is Home Alone on everything?
It is. Like, it literally is.
They marketed the shit out of that game.
Dude, I mean, gosh, and it was effective. Do you remember in Home Alone 2, Kevin had that little, like, recordy walkie-talkie thing that he used for pranks?
Yes.
On Tim Curry and his uncle. By the way, like, as a kid, it completely fooled me. I watched it as an adult, and the huge like Bose stereo like quality sound he gets out of this little tiny bullshit toy that fools grown men into thinking there's a man in the next room singing in the shower. I was like, why did I ever believe that?
Movie magic.
But I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, that kid, I looked up to him. I was like, I got to be a Kevin McAllister. This kid knows what's up.
Yep. So with Snow Bros out of the way, my pick is a little more esoteric.
Okay.
Way more,
we like those.
Possibly more esoteric than Pengo.
We love those.
Yeah. So my pick is Fester's Quest.
Okay. And now Fester's Quest I have played and heard of, but I don't see immediately the connection. So give that to me.
So the reason why I pick Fester's Quest is largely because of this. One of the prevailing feelings of holidays is family. Is that connection to your family. It's spending time with your family. It's loving your family. It's the gifts. It's being thankful. It's all of that. The Addams Family, when I think of family movies where there is a strong sense of family, not just for families watching it, but where there is a strong sense of a mom and a dad and extended family and kids.
Oh, they love each other. They love each other.
They absolutely love each other.
Find you a partner that loves you the way Gomez and Morticia love each other. My God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The fact, or the brotherly relationship between Gomez and Fester. The fact that the two movies both take place around the holidays, or at least one of them does. I know one of them takes place.
I would argue Addams Family Values, which is the second one, is a Thanksgiving movie for all intents and purposes because of the recreation of Thanksgiving in the camp scene, which is amazing. If you don't want to watch the whole movie, which you should, definitely look up that particular scene because Wednesday is cooking.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. She's like, nah, white folks, you're not about to whitewash Thanksgiving. We're going to tell you what actually happened. And then she like flips the script. I love it. It's really good.
Oh, yeah. That's right at the end where she's got the girl who plays the Sarah, the Pilgrim. She's tied up. Yeah. And Wednesday just strikes the match and she's got that devilish look. It's like, I've never been more scared of an 11-year-old girl in my life.
Yeah, no, Christina Ricci crushed that role. She was savage.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, again, I admit the connection between Fester's Quest and the Addams Family and that family thing is a little bit tenuous because there's really no representation of holidays within the game itself, but I can't help but associate family and holidays with the Addams Family, and so... Yeah,
I'm on board, Jed. I'm on board because this is going to be highly personal. And everybody listening, they're going to have those things, those games that tie themselves to the holidays that's personal to them. I literally have a game on the list that I think the main reason why it made it is because I literally got it during the holidays and played it during holiday breaks.
Fair.
In my heart, it's a holiday game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
For sure. Cool. Well, then let's get on over to 4th gen. So for 4th gen, I didn't have any personal examples, but I did some research and I did a little cheating. So this is something that was on my mind recently because I was helping a friend of mine hack his Steam Deck for retro gaming. And I came across a treasure trove of homebrews and hacks for 3rd, 4th, 5th gen, like really good stuff. And you wouldn't believe, maybe you would, how many holiday themed hacks there are for like classic Mario Brothers games. One example that I saw, there was a Super Mario Brothers 3 hack for the SNES. So like the updated SNES version, specifically where Mario gets a festive red and green jumpsuit trading in his overalls. And he just kind of navigates through levels in a winter wonderland's theme. And there's like presents and kind of Christmas and holiday theme all throughout it. And I mean, same thing with Pac-Man. There are holiday theme levels. So if you're into that or curious about that scene, a lot of that stuff will work with your traditional NES, SNES, Genesis emulators, your Nintendo DS emulators. It's a little dicey when you talk about emulation because obviously there is a legal component. My best advice to folks who are interested in getting started and something that's like safer, because it'll also be a bit sketchy depending on which website you go to. Try searching for ROMs, but adding the word archive, because there are US and official archives where things like that are uploaded, or there's a community in the comments talking about it, and you're going to be able to discover a lot of good stuff from there. So yeah, I mean, check out the hack and homebrew scene, you know?
Yeah.
Now for an official game. There was a game that was released it was not in the US, but again, you can find the ROM. Mega Drive and the SNES in Europe and Australia. The game was called Days, like Dazed and Confused, Days Before Christmas. It is a side-scrolling platformer that features Santa Claus, and he's on a mission to save Christmas by defeating evil snowmen and other foes. I mean, you can't get much more holidays than that.
Yeah, that's pretty literally a Christmas game.
Spot on, baby.
Yeah.
So
my pick is from another system that usually gets on the worst systems list, from the Sega CD. It's a movie tie-in game, but this one actually has Christmas within it. That would be Batman Returns.
Oh, good one. Yeah, for sure.
And I pick especially the Sega CD version because the Sega CD version adds levels to the game that aren't in either the SNES or the Genesis version, including using the Sega CD's oft forgotten sprite scaling technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so the driving levels on there where you're driving in the Batmobile and it's using the super scaling. Oh, it's just, you look, every time I see it, I'm like, it's so beautiful. Why didn't Sega use this more often? Why did they pivot to full motion video instead of using that to do stuff like an arcade perfect Afterburner or an arcade perfect Space Harrier, things like that? It's just,
I just didn't believe in it enough, I think.
No.
Sega is beset, I think, by timing. And that kind of took the faith out, I think, of a lot of our projects that if they had really put their weight behind it and really rolled those dice, I think they would have won.
Absolutely.
I do.
I agree.
Yeah.
But Batman Returns, it's a decent side scroller game, but like I said, on the Sega CD version, there is the addition of the driving levels. I believe there's voice acting in it, bigger cutscenes. It's the definitive way to play that version of the game. And I mean, Batman Returns is a Christmas action movie. So
hell yeah. I love a good beat 'em up too.
Yeah.
Love a good beat 'em up. All right. So that's it for 4th gen, right? Let's get on over to the 5th gen. And the 5th gen, I got a personal pick, and then I have like I said, a research pick. So looking through the generations for holiday games, I came across a little gem that you may have heard of because you were a Saturn guy. So for the Sega Saturn, there was an expansion released. Yeah, you're smiling. I see you. Holiday Season 1996, Christmas Nights into Dreams. So it is an expansion of Nights into Dreams, festive themed levels and decorations. I think it was following the events of Nights where you're trying to find the missing star from the Twin Seeds Christmas tree. That sound about right?
Yes.
Yep. I mean, and it, again, you don't get much more holiday than that. You're going to see that running throughout, especially when you get into like the Steam and PC gaming scene. There are, and like DLC becomes prevalent. There are a lot of regular games that get holiday DLC or holiday add-ons. And I think this is one of the first of its kind. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Christmas Nights is my pick for this generation.
Oh, awesome.
So high five. We did the same thing.
All right. Anything to say about that?
If you've never played Nights before, it is an absolute marvel to play. It's a shame that it never was bigger than it was. The free flowing flying in it is so exhilarating. It is so much fun to do. And the Christmas version of it just adds Christmas theme
whimsy
to it. And it's just, Christmas whimsy, and it's beautiful. If you still have a PlayStation 3, while the store is up, Nights is available on the PlayStation Store. And Christmas Nights is bundled into it. So that's a way that you can play it now. I'm sure it's probably available on Steam as well. I would recommend those two over trying to emulate a Saturn. I mean, I know Saturn emulation can be done, but I know that it takes a lot of fiddling.
Yeah. To be honest, I was able to successfully do that over the past month or so with the Steam Deck. So Steam Deck uses a program called EmuDeck. And one of the things in it utilizes RetroArch in addition to a few other like popular modern emulation systems like DuckStation for PlayStation, stuff like that. And it kind of puts it all in one package. And I don't recall specifically what emulator it uses for Saturn, but my friend requested a few Saturn games. And in my research, I was able to find that whatever EmuDeck uses actually works pretty decent out of the box. I mean, I didn't do extensive testing, but I did enough testing to see if the games ran smoothly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we might be getting there. But thank you for the legit way to get it, because I think for a lot of folks, that's, going to remove some barriers, and that's awesome. So with the personal pick, this kind of launches the reason why I had the whole idea for this episode. A few years back for my job, I was in a gaming related community. And I used to write for an e-zine for that gaming community. And one of the articles I wrote was about holiday themed games or holiday inspired games or games that inspire holiday feelings. And so I wrote about this game, and I just kind of want to read the excerpt here. It was in regards to Parasite Eve. And I wrote, just like Die Hard, Parasite Eve is considered by some to be a Christmas game because it takes place during that time. It is an action RPG from that 90s golden age of Square, with gorgeous cutscenes and interesting gameplay mechanics. The story begins on Christmas Eve, 1997, where NYPD Detective Aya Bray is attending an opera at Carnegie Hall. During the performance, everyone but her spontaneously combusts into flame. During her investigation, she learns of Eve, the main antagonist, who has the ability to manipulate the mitochondria in other organisms to cause them to burst into flame or turn into hideous monsters. Oddly enough, Aya is not affected and the only one who can stop her. Have fun. So, to me, because it took place at Christmas Eve and there was a lot of like snow and you're in New York, it just felt very Christmassy to me. I don't know why. And it's a game that I first played during the holidays, so it fit for me.
No, that makes perfect sense. I've never played Parasite Eve, but I do have a memory of it, which is at the time that it came out, I was working at Babbage's / software, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the game coming out and the hype behind it because it was the first, I believe it was the first Squaresoft game following Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And because of that, the association, this is the follow-up to Final Fantasy VII without being a Final Fantasy game, the expectations were through the roof. So many people brought that game back.
Oh.
Only because it wasn't Final Fantasy. They assumed that Squaresoft equals Final Fantasy equals every game will be Final Fantasy. And I'm just taken aback, like, but you don't expect this from anybody else, right? Like, you don't expect Nintendo to produce only Mario games. You don't expect Capcom to do only Mega Man. So why would you expect Squaresoft to do only Final Fantasy?
Also, maybe I'm just naive, but I feel like the Venn diagram of Final Fantasy VII enjoyers and Parasite Eve enjoyers would be closer to a circle because you have an interesting story and you have similar graphics. Actually, I would argue better graphics in Parasite Eve. And it is, for all intents and purposes, an RPG because you pause, to go into a battle screen, and it's a hybrid of action RPG and turn-based, but you still do have to stop, pop, and shot, and you have different commands you could pick, right? So, man, that's really surprising to me, and honestly a little disappointing. Some people they need to open and expand their mind a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it was just a product of if they didn't produce Final Fantasy VII 2,
yeah,
I don't think anything was going to follow up Final Fantasy VII and not live in its shadow, unfortunately.
That's fair.
Which is very unfair to both Parasite Eve, Final Fantasy VIII, and literally anything else they produced until Final Fantasy X?
Yeah, but if you have something, it's unfair to them. You have something that reaches that many people that somehow cracks the glass ceiling of, the general public to where it has mass appeal, then that public is going to ride that wave to the next thing. But if that next thing doesn't have that same mass appeal, then yeah, that's what you're seeing. I bet you that plenty of people did stick with it. It's just obviously you don't see them come back and go, this game is awesome. Yep. You just see the people turning it back in. It reminds me of a lot of people who turned back in Knights of the Old Republic, which made more sense because you were thinking action game and you got RPG. So I kind of get that, but that's disappointing. All right. What did you get for 5th gen? What you told me. Knights.
Yes.
That's right.
Yep. Christmas Knights.
All right. Let's move on then. So we got 6th gen. All right.
I think we're going to probably repeat. You're probably going to have the game that I picked on there.
You think so?
I'm betting.
Maybe. Why don't you go first this time? We'll see.
The game that immediately came to mind for me, this was probably one of the first 2 or 3 games that I thought of. Some of the generations I was able to go right off the top of my head. Okay. And other ones I had to research. This was one that went right off the top of my head. Animal Crossing.
That was one of the ones I picked. In fact, that was in the article I wrote.
the whole idea of Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
The town, building up your home, decorating it, getting that homey feeling, the passing of seasons, there isn't a ton, there's both autumn and winter, of course, and the gameplay changes because of that. Animal Crossing just has this homey feeling to it.
Yeah.
It's not I have not played an Animal Crossing game since the original, only because that's just one of those games where it's a chill kind of game. It's a kick back and relax, but you got to keep checking in with it to maintain the town and pull up the weeds and check go fishing and stuff like that. That's the thing
that gets me into the game, but simultaneously stops me from coming back. I don't know if it's my OCD or ADHD or any number of other afflictions that we all have nowadays, but like something about obsessively playing it for like a month or two, checking in every day, but then missing a few days because life, and then being afraid to go back and never touching the game again. Every Animal Crossing I've ever played has been like that.
And just with modern life now, I don't have the time to be able to go in and check in every day. Like that's just that. I don't want a game to become a responsibility. But that being said, for the people who love it, Animal Crossing, is so evokes that homey feeling that makes me think of the holidays.
I mean, the perfect thing about it, like you said, it runs on a calendar year, an accurate day-to-day calendar year, hour to hour, minute to minute. So if you pop in to that game during the holidays, it is a holiday game. It'll never not be.
Mm-hmm.
If you pop in on Christmas, they're celebrating Christmas. You pop in on New Year's, they are lighting off fireworks.
Yep.
Like, I love that. So yeah, more than any other game on this list, I think it would be fair to say, or fair to be able to be argued at the very least, this is the most holiday game.
Yes, the most that evokes the whole umbrella feeling of of holidays. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else do you have?
Well, I did a few picks just from the net that are specifically holiday. You may or may not remember this, but Nightmare Before Christmas got a few games.
I did not know that.
There was the Nightmare Before Christmas Oogie's Revenge, and that was on PS2, Xbox. And then there was the Nightmare Before Christmas The Pumpkin King, which came out the same year, on 2004. It was Game Boy Advance. The first one for consoles, he's trying to save Halloween Town from Oogie Boogie. And then the Game Boy Advance game actually serves as a prequel. So both mostly Halloween themed, it sounds like, but good stuff. And then the Polar Express got a video game. One of the most, I eyebrowed too, for sure. Jet's raising an eyebrow.
I'm trying to picture how that even plays.
Because, I mean, and no shade to any fans of the Polar Express, but that has got to be one of the most boring holiday movies I have ever seen. And I think the reason why I feel like it's more boring than others is because it's animated. And when you choose animation as a platform or an outlet to tell your story, I feel like that opens up so many fantastic possibilities to go outside of the range of real life. But it just felt so grounded to me that it was a stark contrast for what it could have been. I don't know.
I won't argue one bit. I find the Polar Express to be excruciatingly dull. Not to mention the fact that the animation part of it, like you said, when you do animation, you are opening the door to just go crazy, to have fun. And instead of that, not only is it grounded, they went for at the time, as technologically photorealistic as possible as they could get.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even now when they do the de-aging, like when they did to Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One or Princess Leia, even that stuff is still not great yet. Back then, it was weirdly uncanny valley, not, close to human, but not quite, but just at that border of, ew, you look like monsters. And there's something weird about the animation that just, I don't like looking at it.
Yeah. No, at the time, because you didn't know any better, you're like, wow, this looks realistic. It still sucks. But then you look back and you're like, whoa, not only is it suck, but it's ugly. Well, they had a game based on the film for PS2, GameCube, PC, and then a Game Boy Advance version. So everything. It was on, well, except for maybe Xbox, but it allows players to relive the magical journey to the North Pole aboard the Polar Express. I didn't look any further than that because I really didn't give a shit. If you like the Polar Express, there you go. I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't offend any Polar Express fans. Not for me. So I had a couple of other games that made the article that to me really felt wintry or holiday themed. The first was the SSX series. That's a snowboarding game. Fun fact, I think I've said this before, but SSX was the first game I purchased for my PS2 back in 2001 alongside Dynasty Warriors 2 and Tekken Tag Tournament. So it's arcade snowboarding. It's fun. It's cartoony. There's tons of snow. And not all of us experience inclement weather during the holidays, but I think the appreciation of having like a winter wonderland or a snowscape, hearing the sounds of shredding snow, I feel like it can evoke those holiday feelings. And so any old snowboarding game that you enjoy, Cool Borders, Steep, whatever it is that you like, 1080 snowboarding, I feel like that those types of games would be fun to play during the holidays for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then the other one that I wanted to mention was Kingdom Hearts. So I know it's here's what I wrote. Frantic, colorful, action RPG appropriate for all ages. It's set in a universe where Disney and Final Fantasy characters coexist. Kingdom Hearts is about, this is your Addams Family argument. Kingdom Hearts is about the power of friendship, connection, and a story that has been retconned so much people have trouble knowing where it truly originated. Sounds like the holidays to me.
Yeah.
Christmas has definitely been retconned.
Yeah.
As a bonus, Kingdom Hearts 2 features Halloween and Christmas levels from The Nightmare Before Christmas. So, there's a tenuous connection there.
I can go for that. I can see it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's move on over to the 7th gen. What was your pick for that generation?
So, pick for the 7th gen is kind of hearkening back to the 5th gen with the DLC for Knights. And this is DLC for Saints Row the 3rd. And is it the 3rd or the 4th one?
It's probably the 4th. You're talking about How the Saints Save Christmas. It's on my list.
Yep. How the Saints Save Christmas. Sorry. For some reason, those two started to blur in my head.
For a good reason, actually. They're pretty much the same game. Let's be real.
Yeah. For the most part. Yeah. But yeah, How the Saints Saved Christmas, DLC for the 4th Saints Row game. Saints Row is my absolute favorite crime simulation open world game. It is delirious and stupid and juvenile, and it just tickles that 90s part of the brain for me that loved Beavis and Butthead. It's just moronic. So the fact that they went all in on a Christmas DLC where there's rogue elves that are trying to take over the place, and you have Christmas themed guns and Christmas themed outfits, and there's a trophy that I unlocked the first time, not knowing it. Where to get into this one area, there's a door, and there are two ways to get through the door. You can either break down the door, or you can lick the door handle because it's a candy cane, but you have to lick it like 60 times, which means pressing the X button 60 times. But you can't go tap, 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 and just rapid fire it. It's tap. There is an animation that has
wait for the animation,
and then wait, and then do it. And I think it took about 15, 20 minutes. But I don't know why. Just all of a sudden I was doing, I'm like, this has got to be something. There's got to be a reason for this licking. I'm just going to keep doing it. And it did it. Yeah. The trophy popped up.
That's funny.
But just, I mean, it's a completely R-rated, bonkers, batshit insane Christmas. If you've ever seen Scrooged, the night the reindeer died promo at the very top of the movie, it's kind of like that, but with a whole lot of dick jokes. I love it.
Yeah. Scrooged is unhinged. Have you seen it like recently?
Yes. It's something that there are certain Christmas movies we watch every year. Scrooge is one of like the first 3 that we do.
How much cocaine did Bill Murray do to film that final scene? That's all I want to know.
Oh yeah. He was having a good time.
He was manic.
Yeah.
Oh
he was all over the place.
Oh my God. I've never had such whiplash, tonal whiplash from a holiday movie, other than Scrooged, where he's like talking to the love of his life 1 minute, and then like he's making out with a woman who's half of her areola you can see through her outfit in the next. Like, it's wild. Moving on. I had a couple again of those picks where I was looking up, and again, this is like this is the generation of DLC. Borderlands 2 had How Marcus Saved Mercenary Day, which is a couple of missions that are kind of holiday themed. Where I think, if I recall, there was like a shipment of guns that got lost, and it had to go to a specific map that was like winter holiday themed to find them. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer got a video game this generation, like from the 1967 animated classic. Remember that?
Yes, love that classic. That's
striking. Wii and Nintendo DS.
Striking while the iron is ice cold, apparently.
Oh, yeah, and striking in the most Wii shovelware way. So back in 2010, they released it for the Wii and the Nintendo DS, and it was 4 mini games, all having their own motion controls with time limits. I think up to 2 players could participate and both hate the game together. It got terrible reviews.
You know, I remember seeing that in a Scott the Woz video. He was doing, in one of his shovelware videos, he covers a couple of Christmas games, and one of them is that game. And you could you could play through all 4 mini games and beat it in like 15 minutes.
No, anybody who got that from a grandparent who was nostalgic for that time, they got the shaft that year for Christmas for sure.
Yep.
So stay away from that unless you just love to torture yourself. Let's see. Holiday Express. I found this game, and this is PC only as far as I know. Now, there's a whole train simulator community, right? For, train simulation, which I'm not really into those types of games, but if you are, this is kind of interesting. They basically took the train simulator game, but made it for a holiday train that goes, the map is basically like a living room, like a Christmas themed. So it's a tiny train.
Well, that's cool.
And you can do exploratory gameplay with it where you just kind of choo-choo, go around the little, the cool holiday train track set, which honestly, my father-in-law would probably love this game. I should tell him about it. Mental note. Okay. Because he has his own train set he breaks out every holiday season. But also there are holiday themed items and missions and stuff that you can do within the game if you want to gamify it somewhat. You know what I mean? Like go around collecting gifts. I don't think it's anything super complicated, but if the thought of train simulators and Christmas trains geeks you out, maybe look this one up. It came out back in 2013. Shouldn't be that hard to find or that expensive. So check it out on Steam. And then a couple games for this generation that made my article. And this is the one I think I had mentioned earlier where the only connection really is that I got it during the holidays and played it during holiday break. But I did try to make a connection. So hear me out. Skyrim. Skyrim was originally released on 11/11/11. So we're already in November. We're balls deep in the holiday season. It was the type of game you would get during the holidays as a gift or get it for yourself, and you'd sink hours and hours into it while you were on vacation. Snow-capped mountains, banquet halls, warm homesteads filled with treasure from your adventures, the crackling fire at the inn where you pop in to chat with the locals. All of these things invoke those holiday feelings for me. Now, Skyrim has been released over and over, but each time I go back to play it, most recently I think it was on the Nintendo Switch, it's like coming home. Coming home for the holidays. Eh?
Yeah.
That's an argument.
Yeah, I buy that argument.
Buy it. All right. And then the other one I mentioned, this game came out the previous generation, Bully. But the first time I played Bully was the Scholarship Edition on 360, which I would argue to this day is the definitive way to play this game. Graphically, it looks the best, and it has the most additional content. So I'm just going to put that out there. I don't know if there's anybody going to argue with me about that, but to me, 360 is the best way to play it. This is what I wrote. Largely considered to be one of Rockstar's more enjoyable experiences out of GTA, Bully is a game that surrounds the antics of a young kid named Jimmy, who is transferred to a new boarding school and has to navigate its aggressive staff and even more dangerous clicks. This game is a fun throwback to an exaggerated version of childhood and school life. Early on in the game, there are several holiday-related missions that range from pranking people on Halloween to helping competing street Santas.
Yeah. I completely forgot about the holiday content in that game.
Yeah, like that drunk-ass Santa that's like, you gotta get me a tray. Ask the presents. So people sit on my lap. They're like, you smell like piss, old man. Good stuff.
That was a surprisingly good game. Like, I went into it going, okay, this is just going to be like Grand Theft Bicycle. But
no, it's so much.
It turned out a lot better than I thought.
No, Rockstar really showed that under certain constraints, it can condense and really boil down the best aspects of its game design and gameplay. Because obviously the world of Bully is the school and the small surrounding town. But it is so jam-packed with activities and things to do and like hidden game mechanics. I really do like, I think it's one of the best things they've ever done. And I'm praying for the day that one day we get a sequel or some kind of spiritual successor. We'll see.
It would be nice. I mean, we're at 20 years now and they still haven't, but
yeah,
fingers crossed.
I mean, considering how long we waited for Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility, but we'll see.
True.
8th and final gen. We're going to have a regular sized episode this time. Yeah. Wow. Love it.
Might come in under an hour. Shock.
Woo! Let's go. All right. 8th gen. What do you got picked for that?
8th gen. I have got something that's going to be really off the map, but I think it's a game. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know how to lead into it.
Okay.
The game's called Night in the Woods.
Okay.
It is an indie game. The studio that made it unfortunately shut down last year. They were in the middle of making another game, and then all of a sudden they canceled the game and shut down. And I can't remember the studio off the top of my head. But Night in the Woods is best described as an animated narrative platformer. It is much more concerned with the narrative that it's telling than it is with the platforming. The platforming is just how you get around town and talk to people and initiate certain conversations, go down different story paths, stuff like that.
Okay.
The story of Night in the Woods, you are playing as a character who she's just come home from college. And I should mention, all the characters are animals. They're all anthropomorphic animals. Your character is a cat. But there's talking dogs, there's talking elephants, there's talking alligators, talking marmots, all sorts of things. And so like I said, you've just come back from college, and it turns out that you actually dropped out of college. And it's fall. It's only been like a month or so since college started. And you're kind of trying to figure out what you're doing with your life, and you've moved back in with your parents, and your parents are kind of giving you space, letting you figure things out. But at the same time, they're trying to nose around and be like, hey, why you home? Shouldn't you be in school?
Yeah.
And your friends are like, you're back? Why are you back? Why did you come back to this small town? You got out. You went to college. And so the story is, first of all, it's unraveling that. It's unraveling why you left college and the psychological things that are going on. But then as you're in town, you also discover that there might be this cult in town, which goes down a whole completely different path. And it's a really weird story. And it's you're interacting with your parents, with the pastor, with your friend group. Like I said, there's branching paths that can take you to different places, different locations. What makes it feel holiday-like are a couple of things. One is the time and setting. You see this town. It takes place between September and early December. And you see the town go through the changes of autumn. You see the leaves start to turn. You see people go from wearing t-shirts and jeans to wearing a windbreaker to wearing a winter coat.
Okay.
You see the snow start to fall. So you see that, like I said, that change from the end of summer through the autumn to the beginning of winter. But the family component is also very strong in this game. Your parents are supportive, but they're also wondering why you've made the choices that you've made. And they want to be there for you and they want to support you, but they also don't want to see you derail your life.
Right.
So there's that feeling of welcome home. Your home is always here. It's that's that homey feeling, but also that family dynamic that sometimes you don't want, where family are a little more judgy or strict. Yeah. And we all know that not every holiday experience can be positive. So this can kind of evoke that as well. So yeah, for all of that, you can find it. I know it's on all of the eShops. I'm pretty sure it's on Steam as well. It's not an expensive game. I think it's like $20. Really great art style, really cute sense of humor, very quirky, very indie, but definitely worth the time.
Great. Yeah. I don't know why, but just hearing you describe that game invoked Gone Home for me. I got to start thinking about Gone Home. Have you played that game?
No.
It's a walking simulator, right? And some of them are great. Like, what was it? Edith Finch. What was that one called?
What Remains of Edith Finch.
Probably the best one I've ever played. Gone Home is up there though. And Gone Home is, you literally come home, and it's more about the state of your sibling and your parents and the house as you go through and discover. You literally get a story just from like reading through things and finding things. There's kind of a vibe because you're alone. There's no one else in the house and it's storming outside. But it ends up being a very kind of bittersweet, heartwarming family tale. Yeah, like I don't know if I would consider that a holiday game, but anybody who hasn't played Gone Home, especially if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, I feel like this would be a game that you'd want to check out for sure. So I really enjoyed it. All right. Well, I had 3 games in this generation that have tenuous ties, and then I have one that I think really kind of is very solid. So I'll end with that. But the tenuous ones, we have Stardew Valley, Red Dead Redemption 2, and A Short Hike. So I'll quickly get through these. Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing. I mean, it doesn't do the calendar thing, but it has a lot of the same beats. There's seasons. I just feel like it's very chill. And again, holidays are about relaxation and chill to me. So enough said.
Yeah. As soon as you said Stardew Valley, I went, Animal Crossing, but farming. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, like dope ass dungeon exploration. I didn't expect that with Stardew Valley. Have you played it?
I have not. I really should, because I keep hearing about it and it sounds interesting.
It's so fucking cool, dude.
I had no idea there was dungeon exploring in it.
There is dungeon exploring. Like it really does kind of hit a few beats you wouldn't expect and really rounds out the experience. So I would recommend it for sure. And it's on everything. My God. Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, again, you start off in a snowstorm, but to me, like, it's so slow and rich. It's like a dessert that you have to eat slowly because you don't have any milk nearby. Like, it's so, I don't know how to describe it other than the fact that, like, you just move through it and it just takes you over. It really does feel like a warm blanket by the fire. You're just kind of playing through it. And it sticks to your ribs. It really does. Like, I have only beat that game once, and it was the year it came out, and I cannot stop thinking about it. And I've always wanted to go back, but I know it's an undertaking, so I'm always like, maybe later. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's one of those things. And the third one with tenuous ties, A Short Hike. This actually more themes with what you were just talking about with your game. A Short Hike is multi-platform. I mean, it's an indie game. Anybody can get a hold of it. I think I played it on Switch myself. And you go to, it's been a while since I played it, so I might be messing up some of the story beats, but I think you're visiting your aunt or a family member on this island, and you're a little bird, and you're traveling around the island and meeting people, and it's relaxing, and you're finding ways to like traverse and explore. And you'll meet people like, hey, how fast can you go down this mountain on this bike? Or, can you get up here? That type of thing. And there's collections and stuff. And you think it's just kind of like a charming little game with, characters and scenery. And then it hits you out of nowhere with this really heartfelt family story. Like at the end, I was almost in tears. I was like, what? And you can finish this game in a day. I think the game only lasts like 4 hours. It's very cheap, but it's so lovely. It's such a wonderful story to experience. I'd highly recommend it to anybody who is into that type of thing, for sure. And then finally, the kibosh. Thanksgiving. For me, Overcooked. Now, this made the article, so I'm going to go ahead and rattle off what I wrote a few years ago. Overcooked and its sequel are deceptively simple. At its core, it is a local co-op game about working together to cook food as fast as possible. You have a button to pick things up and a button to interact, like using a cutting board, a skillet, a deep fryer, sink, etc. However, the environment will change in interesting ways as you progress, and communication becomes key. It eventually boils down to you and your friends or family frantically yelling at each other while working together to prepare a large meal. The perfect Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, that's Thanksgiving in a nutshell, man.
Chaos, baby. Chaos in that kitchen. So yeah, that wraps it up for me and for what I hope you all enjoyed as our picks for holiday themed and holiday vibes in video games.
It's been fun. This was a challenge. This one was, when you first proposed it, like I said, there was the couple of games. It was the How the Saints Saved Christmas, Night in the Woods, and Christmas Nights. All were like boom, boom, boom. And Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Everything else, I was like, oh shit. Oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking back to the NES library going, nothing's Christmas. Nothing's Thanksgiving. They didn't do things like that then.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So next episode, before we get into the plugs and everything, I was going to pick, but instead, I'm going to nominate 2 categories, and I'm going to let you pick.
Okay. Interesting. Okay?
So, first one is because of the time of year. We've got the NFL playoffs going on. College football playoffs just wrapped up. Basketball is going to be taking center stage soon. March Madness is going to be soon. Baseball is going to be starting spring training soon. Hockey's going on. Almost every sport's going to be going on simultaneously.
You know it.
That sports game.
Okay.
The other idea is a little more esoteric. The game from each generation with the most overblown controversy.
Ooh.
Games that had controversies that when we look back, we go,
why though?
Why? What was the fucking problem?
A few games we talked about today that would actually fit that category, to be honest.
Yes. I could think of one off the top of my head.
I can't. We're thinking of the same one. I know we are.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Jack Thompson. All right. I am not a huge sports guy, although I do enjoy sports games. They usually lean towards the EA big category. Obviously I mentioned snowboarding. Those I'm down to do that, and I think we should do that in the future. However, you've really piqued my interest with this whole overblown controversy thing. Because I feel like some fun arguments and back and forth can be had with that, especially if we're engaging with our audience as well. So I hope y'all are more interested in that, because I think that's the one I'm going to pick.
All right. I
love it.
That honestly was the first one that I thought of. And then the sports one came to mind just because of the time of year. But
let's do the sports thing for sure. I know luckily, because like you said, sports, any time of the year I think would be a good time for that. But yeah, I really like this controversy idea. I think that's going to be fun. And it's been a while since we got into a more gaming history broad category, since like the most important game of every generation. And since that's more the crux of this show, we got a little derailed by doing seasonal episodes. I'd like to get back to that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
All right. So then that's the plan. Games with overblown controversies on the next episode.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to interact with us, if you want your emails, your comments, your telegrams, your messages delivered by carrier pigeon, whatever it takes. If you want those read on the show, if you'd like to interact with us, in every episode description, there's a link tree. You can reach out to Mike or myself on social media. Our links are on there. Email for the show is on there. By all means, please interact. We would love for this to be an interactive show.
Most def. People, we appreciate you coming out and listening to us. We appreciate your continued support. And we look forward to doing the next episode and hearing what y'all think. So till next time, take care.
Until next time.